Getting back together, I said, listen, one of the things I don't want is a relationship on social media. And then I sort of realized it's not a fair thing to ask. It's sort of like, you're going to marry a boat captain, and you go, well, I don't like the water, We're just two people with kind of different approaches trying to learn to compromise.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Down the rabbit hole news, I am the rabbit. Listen, Ben Affleck, who survived JLO, I believe the divorce has finally been finalized, decided to do an exclusive interview with GQ magazine. And we definitely have that magazine, so we got to talk about the information that he provided. Now, let me just say this. Don't forget that they were engaged at one point and then they kind of broke it off and they blamed the paparazzi and media of it. I've done several videos, especially last year, kind of exposing JLo. And I really kind of started in the journey of exposing JLo because of her This Is Me Now documentary. And also, in my opinion, I think that she had a lot more to her about the nightclub shooting where Natanya Rubin and others were injured while she was with Diddy, right? There's a lot more to that. I also feel like JLo has, in my opinion, it's taken from artists in the communities, and will selectively tap into her Puerto Rican side, to her Boricua side, when it's beneficial to her. But besides JLo, I thought this was an important exclusive that Ben gave, and I want to talk a little bit about it. So if you have not read it, this is straight out of GQ magazine or GQ.com, and you could definitely look into it. But I wanted to get right to the part where they were asking questions. So let's go. GQ asked, one story I read this week, speaking of tabloids, was that the FBI visited your house. So I remember when this broke, about the FBI coming over to Ben's house, and people were speculating, oh, it's because of JLo tapes and Diddy tapes and all this other stuff. This is the first time I'm reading his response. So, guys, let me know what you guys think about what he said. Ben Affleck says, good example. As it turns out, the FBI did in fact visit my house. But this is pretty revealing, right? So I come home and I see that there's a story with sources that say, hey, the FBI was at your house. And I'm like, well, this is strange. So I called him and I say, hey, FBI, were you at my house? Do you want to talk to me? Wait a minute. So they were watching his house and he wasn't at his house, but he found out that the FBI came over to his house through the tabloids. It's interesting. Hey, FBI, were you at my house? Do you want to talk to me? Oh, we don't know. I get transferred along. Finally, somebody who's actually responsible for what was happening was like, oh, we had no idea that was your house. There was a break in of a federal official home in the area. So the FBI went around and whoever lived there, the FBI rang their doorbell. But because there were photographers sitting outside and these guys have their FBI jackets on, then it's the FBI has visited your house. Whoever wrote the story made up something about how it was related to the investigation about a drone. Oh, yes. And that I guess did crash into one of the helicopters 2 or 3 miles up Manville Canyon. Turns out, no, it wasn't about that. In fact, we were very far from where the drone was. So it's like you've seen this event about the FBI at my house. I had no idea. My only involvement was to track it down and figure it out. So there is the mystery of the FBI at Ben Affleck's house. I mean, people were definitely flipping on this one. Now, this is where it gets to the juicy question. This is the question that I personally feel like we're all trying to get to. Do you know what I'm actually thinking about right now? Says the GQ person. You did just get divorced from Jennifer Lopez. And there's a scene in the documentary she puts out last year called The Greatest Love Story Never Told. Really, there's more than one scene, actually. The entire premise of the film is she's like, we're private people, but we have public dimensions as artists. And I'm about to put a lot of us out there. I remember that part where she was speaking on that. She was like, we're private people, but I'm about to put a lot about out there. I mean, she was literally reading the love emails that they shared with each other back in like the early 2000s. And I felt like when she did that, she literally killed a part of their relationship. Like, think about it, guys. Think of like relationships, that you've been prior, right? And you have your good days and your bad days, and then you have like those things that you just don't touch, just don't share. They're like secrets between the two of you about maybe special moments or something. And I feel like that's what she did. She turned that into art, which really wasn't even art in my opinion. I think it was just like her, pushing to exploit a certain private area of their relationship. Not everything is meant to be out for everybody, but because JLo will do anything to kind of like seem more human than most. Like she tries too hard. I definitely saw that as her trying like too hard, if you know what I mean. But anyways, no, and you're on camera and your face as this is revealed to you is, and I'm only guessing, but it looks like you're taking a deep breath, like, oh fuck, here we go again. But also, I love and support this person. Um, I think that Ben loved and support JLo. He kind of, I don't know, like it's like a Fuchi face. Si la gente me entiende, it's like cuando alguien te hace la cara de Fuchi is when somebody gives you that Fuchi face, like, like. And that's what I saw him. Like he just looked like he had this Fuchi face all the time. Like he couldn't like stand her. And I'm playing the Fuchi face here so you guys understand what I'm talking about. He always looks irritated. Some of you guys might call it the resting bitch face. Like even this photo right here, he definitely looks like he's a resting bitch at this point, or he's got that resting bitch face. Um but honestly, I think he was just over her. Like he's been over her. And he was over her in ways that he had to compromise certain things about things he didn't want to do. Like I could tell there was a part in that This Is Me Now video where he talked about supporting her and knowing that she is not the type of person that is satisfied with like a like or like a thumbs up or a heart. She gets validation by people watching her, all of her pictures and stuff like that. And I saw her recently. She went to like some award show with her daughter, and I even think her daughter struggles a little bit. Like she's having to put up with their mom being in the limelight. All of these kids do in Hollywood, but it must be tough because it's not a normal childhood for them. And JLo has definitely not done a good job in keeping things normal. But anyways, Ben answers to the greatest love story never told question. Part of it was, okay, if I'm going to participate in this, I want to try to do it in an honest way and in a way that's interesting, because I thought it was an interesting examination. Like I mentioned to you before, there are a lot of people who I think I have handled celebrity more adeptly and more adroitly than I have. Jennifer among them. My temperament is to be a little bit more reserved and private than hers. As happens in relationships, you don't always have the same attitude towards these things. And so I thought, oh, this is interesting, because how do you reconcile that? Because exactly what you said is true. I love and support this person. I believe in them. They're great. I want people to see that. And I think the thing that I said in the documentary or whatever, or the piece that they use, was where I said, you don't marry a ship captain and then say, well, I don't like going out in the water. He did say that. Like you don't marry a ship captain and say, well, I don't like to go to the sea. I don't like to go to water. And this is a good point. He tried his best, in my opinion, to tie himself to a situation that he was already over with. You know what I mean? Because I feel like younger Ben was kind of like, I'll deal with the paparazzi. It's not a big deal. And, they were kind of like, it is what it is, right? But now that he's gotten a little bit older, and he's kind of like a lay low kind of guy, if you know what I mean, because he's had his shares of run-ins with the paparazzi and the tabloids. I think the other thing too is that he never struck me as a person who, has to do things to be bigger than, or like is trying to keep up with anybody. Even though he has a lot of money and he's won his Oscars and stuff like that, I mean, he's given his time to the industry. I personally have felt like he is kind of like this person that just wants to retire quietly and move on. And that's not what JLo was. I think that he compromised a lot to be with her. And this was part of it, is the paparazzi. He further says, you've got to own what you knew going into any relationship. And I think it's important to say that I wasn't the cause of some major fracture It's not like you can watch the documentary and go, oh, now I understand the issues that these two had. I don't know. Because I watched the documentary like a couple times. I remember being really tired watching that BS, because it was BS. There was just some insincerity about the things that JLO put out. And when you're insincere about the beginnings of a relationship, that can really fracture it too. Like Kim even saying this, I've got to own what you knew going into any relationship. And I think it's important to say that wasn't the cause of some major fracture. I think that the documentary was very telling. The making of it was very telling about their fractures in that relationship. And I did feel like I could watch it and say, oh, yeah, like this was the issue that they had, especially when she was reading those love emails and violating a lot of the no-nos in that relationship. And then he's asked, how's that last conversation sitting? And he answers, well, on the one hand, there's the first feeling, which is like, well, I hope I was clear about when you asked me about Jen in the documentary. I talked about that, my sort of personal life a little bit, which I don't mind doing as long as my actual feelings and intentions and beliefs are communicated, which I hope I was clear that really this is somebody I have a lot of respect for. Ben Affleck is a gentleman at the end of the day, right? He's letting the people know that he's not here to tarnish her character. And I get wanting to divine or explore the kind of differences in perspective that we have in terms of how a person feels comfortable approaching the line between public and private life. But I really hope that whatever you use doesn't suggest that I have any negativity or judgment or anything regarding that. I have nothing but respect. I guess there's a tendency to look at breakups and want to identify root causes or something. But honestly, like I said, the truth is much more quotidian than probably people would believe or would be interesting. GQ personality. Quotidian in the sense that there's not some major thing. He responds, yeah, there's no scandal, no soap opera, no intrigue. The truth is, when you talk to somebody, hey, what happened? Well, there is no, this is what happened. It's just a story about two people trying to figure out their lives and relationships in a way that we all sort of normally do. And as you get older, this is true for me. I assume it's true for most people. There is no so and so did this or this was the big event. It sounds more like a couples therapy session, which you would tune out of someone else's couple therapy after a while. For one thing, you start going, okay, clearly this person has got these issues. Clearly they have these issues. And the reason I don't want to share that is just sort of embarrassing. It feels vulnerable. Okay, so Ben is clearly being a little bit more vulnerable with this GQ interview, which I think it's fantastic. I think it's great. I think that Ben is the kind of person that is going to respect the ending of that relationship and probably not say anything, right? And not make it bigger. I mean, actually, historically, if you've analyzed some of his breakups, they've never been like this big old breakup or anything like that. I do feel like it's interesting that he's with his ex, Jennifer Gardner. And you see them together every once in a while, right? Because they share children. There's always going to be this bond with them. But I'm going to be honest with you. I feel like he prematurely gave up on that relationship. To me, Jennifer Lopez was a wishful thinking type of situation. It was cute visually. It was cute in the Y2K time, the Bennifer time. It wasn't cute now. And I think part of it is because they grew apart from work goals. Jennifer still wants to work. Jennifer still wants to do concerts. She's still working for an Oscar or a Grammy or an Emmy or all these things, right? Ben has already done that. I think he's kind of evolved in a different way. Also, I think he gave up prematurely to his marriage. And I wouldn't be surprised if he gets with the other Jennifer. You never know. I hope she doesn't. I hope she doesn't take him back, because my understanding is that he wasn't very faithful in that marriage. That's what I heard. But I hope she doesn't. I think Jennifer strikes me as a person. The other Jennifer Gardner, strikes me as a person that, she's really set in her ways, and that she's kind of doesn't need the paparazzi. She's mature. She's about her children, about their growth, and about her community. So I guess we'll see. I mean, I'm glad that Ben spoke out. Shout out to him. I'm glad he did. But I have a feeling that this is as much as we're gonna get from him about their breakup, which is just interesting. And now Jennifer can now finally date Kevin Costner openly and date all these other people openly. And hopefully she takes time for herself. Because, like I said, last year we called this. We said those two are not going to be together. Not that we wish that on anybody, but we kind of called it, guys. We did. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do me a favor, hit the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye, guys.